फेस ये भी उनको नहीं 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 चलेगा. Good morning, Gomti madam.
Good morning. Very good morning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are. Thank you for joining us. We are very happy that you are here with us, and students are joining from their classroom. Actually, teachers are streaming the session in the classroom, so it
Okay.
will take around two
No
three
problem.
minutes. But we will start at sharp 11:15.
Sure, sure. No problem. Sure. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you.
Sundar.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome our respected principal ma'am, faculty members, member of research committee, our resource person Dr. Gomati Jatin ma'am, and all our dear students. A warm welcome to everyone. Join us for day 4 of the information literacy program organized by the research committee. Today we will discussing an important topic, that is introduction to research methodology. Research is not just about collecting information, it is about asking the right questions, finding reliable information, analyzing it properly and reaching meaningful conclusion. Understanding research methodology help us conduct research in a systematic and ethical way. Now, I would like to briefly introduce our resource person. Dr. Gomati Jatin is an associate professor at the Center of Excellence in Teacher Education at the Tata Institute of Social Science. She is very passionate about adults and psychology, positive psychology, social emotional learning practice, teachers education and classroom pedagogy. She has conducted multiple workshops on research methodology for students, for teachers and educators at different levels. Dr. Gomati is a member of Research Review Committee, Board of Studies, and Academic Council in many institutes. She is an editorial board of international journal and peer reviewer of various journals. So, Dr. Gomati ma'am has to her credit various projects, research, publication of books, chapter, and journals article. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and joining us today. We are sure that this session will be informative and helpful for all of us. So without taking much time of your time, now I request Dr. Gomati, ma'am, to kindly take over the session. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that introduction. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with students. Uh, yeah, so uh, is the class video, can the class video be on for some time at least so that I know who I'm addressing, please, if it's possible?
Dear teachers, requesting you to please switch on your camera for some time so that resource person Gomti ma'am can at least see you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So towards the later side, you may, if at all network doesn't allow, you can switch off. But at least to start with, I would like to see some faces to address here. Thanks. So yeah, so let's start then. So dear students, I guess you are all in the second year. Am I right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
They are
Yes,
all
ma'am.
in the second year. So that is, you have a 3-year bachelor's or 3-year bachelor's, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. We have a
All the
3-year undergrad program,
all
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
disciplines.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So as you move towards your graduating year and when you move towards professional degrees or professional careers, we need to know exactly what we are navigating through, right? Even when you are in the classroom, when you are studying, you must be facing a lot of problems, I'm sure, either at family, either at home, either at the classroom, either with your friends, different kinds of problems. And at times we tend to look at the problem with different perspectives. And today, when we're talking about research and research methodology, it is not just about a kind of degree that you talk about as research, as a PhD or any kind of research, but it's much more to use something in your daily life too. So let's look at research in that lens. So as I navigate through this session, showing the PowerPoint, it's not necessary that I keep talking. Please feel free to raise your hands, interfere, and ask questions. Or if you want to share anything, please feel free to do so. I would be very happy to take your questions or comments and also listen to your opinions. Right. So let's start with the session today.
Guys, I don't want any of this to show up.
Right. So can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible and your screen is visible as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So if you keep confirming, at least I would know that, yes, you are all with me and I'm not alone in the journey of, you know, introducing the research methodology. Thanks so much. Yeah. So when you talk of research methodology, first thing comes is research. So let's see today what are we going to really cover in this session. One is introducing to research and research methodology. You must be hearing the word research again and again from your facilitators, from your teachers. But what exactly it is? Let's decode the whole word and try to understand it from a layman's perspective. And then following research comes a research methodology, the types of research, tools of research, types of sampling. These are all big words, but then once you understand them, it's very interesting and easy to really uh, maneuver through the whole process. Then once you use the research method, you come to data analysis. You have a lot of data, information. Whatever information you gather is called data, and that data you need to really analyze. So it can be qualitative, quantitative, and then of course mixed method. All these things we will slowly come. I have taken an example so that it's much easier for you. And then finally we will go to reflections and takeaways. So objectives of research. I would like to know from you what you understand by research. You can put on the chat, or you can raise your hands and respond whichever way you feel comfortable. But I would like one or two responses about your understanding of research. At the second year level, what is it that you understand by research? Just break the word research. May I have one or two responses, please?
Some of the students have been messaging me and they are saying that it's about re-investigating something or re-looking into something because it's of two words, re and search. So against
Okay,
it is re-investigating something.
great.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for responding. Yeah, I understand that you're all in a single class and won't be able to chat. That's absolutely fine. Okay. So as we move further, Google, the moment when we talk about finding something, searching something, this is where we resort to. Am I right? Google. The moment we want to know something, we want to find out something, we just go to the Google and start searching about things. But this is not a synonym for research. It's just Googling out, getting information, but it is not actual research. So it is not simply a technical exercise, right? The thing is, three people going to Google, finding out something, coming out with different kind of solutions or responses. The solutions may be authentic, may not be authentic, may not be credible, right? So it's not just a simply technical exercise. It is concerned with understanding the world. How do each one of us understand the world? And that is what research is about. Understanding the world does not mean that you need to understand the universe. You may need to just understand your classroom. You may need to understand your subjects. You may need to understand the concerns related with your subject or any kind of activity that you are engaged with. It can be community projects, it can be extension work, it can be any kind of research project, action research, whatever you're doing in the course of studying your 3-year graduation, any kind of concern can convert into a research problem. And you can actually understand why it is happening, what is happening, how can one deal with it, and so on. So it's systematic. So it's not very arbitrary. It is very systematic, controlled. So control in the sense you can actually manipulate, you can control probably, if you take a problem, you can control other variables that are going on in your family, outside of the classroom, and you can make it really systematic and logical step by step. It is empirical in the sense, not just taking any hearsay information or Google information. And today our WhatsApp is full of information. The moment some Insta reel comes or any kind of information comes, YouTube video, we tend to believe it, start believing it and taking it at face value. But is it really credible? Is it really authentic? Has it been researched? Have people really noticed a trend? Is there a pattern in it? All these things, something we tend to miss. So it has to be empirical and critical. When you look at certain information or any kind of results, are we looking at it critically? Critically does not mean you need to criticize. You need to investigate it, saying that, yes, is it really authentic? Has it come from a kind of observations people have done systematically? So that is called critical investigation. So remember that critical investigation is not about criticism, but it is going through things systematically and seeing whether it works, whether it does not work, whether it is right, whether it is not right, where has it come from, how has it come from, and so on. These kind of questions help you to critically investigate. Of what? Hypothetical propositions. What are these hypothetical propositions? Daily, as we come across WhatsApp, we come across Insta, or people around us, peers, they say something you tend to believe, or you may have your own assumptions from what you have experienced in your family, what your family members have told, or you have seen in your vicinity or your neighborhood. So we have certain assumptions, propositions, which we hypothesize. Oh, because of being in that particular environment, that person is not able to study. That is our assumption. And we propose it as a statement. We generalize it. Presumed relations. So again, these are relations that we tend to form based on our own experiences, our own hearsay, and from the environment around us without even thinking, does it really apply to other contexts? Does it apply to my friend, or does it apply to another person from another geography? Right? We ignore these kind of situations. So we presume relations among natural phenomena. So whatever we are researching is amongst us, our own ecosystem. So it is systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical investigation. So if you look at the steps, how does it go? This is the last stage, but still to start with, let me tell you how do we, go one by one. When you talk about systematic and very step by step and logical, first we have a problem. So we define it. Then looking at the problem, whether this problem has been studied, whether this problem has given some kind of solutions. Simple problem like we will come to the problem later. Maybe we will go to the steps again. So reviewing the literature. What do you mean by literature? Literature does not mean English literature. Literature is that research that is already existing and available. Right? Suppose you are studying a problem about your community project. Why didn't your community project, why were you not able to engage with the field in the course of your community engagement project? Simple example, right? Now, there may be various reasons. You cannot just assume reasons. So for that, you need to go to research and see whether research has talked about this kind of engagement between students and community engagement project, or the field of the project. What is the nature of the field? What is the nature of the mentorship? Is the time sufficient? Right? So many factors come into picture, which is the reason why probably one particular student has not been really able to engage. So literature will talk about a lot of concepts, theories in terms of you are not able to engage with people in the field. Have you got that kind of scaffold, right? Scaffold means help or support from your mentors or from your peers, or even has a field able to support you. So all these things you will get from theories, concepts which are already have been done. People have already researched about it, so on. So previous research findings will help you to, you know, tell you what not to do and what to do in your future. So that is what literature talks about. Then hypothesis. Based on the literature, based on all the readings and researches that you go through, then you will come to a kind of, a nutshell in essence. Okay, what does all research tell about? What are the revelations? And then you formulate an hypothesis that because of lack of support from the field, there was no engagement between for the student with the field, with the particular type of field, right, throughout the community engagement project. So you form a hypothesis. There was not, or there is no sufficient, support. You can frame the hypothesis in many ways. Again, we will come to that to a later stage. How do we frame the hypothesis? Then now you already formed a hypothesis. That's your assumption, right? From that assumption to hypothesis, you are now moving forward. Now, how do I proceed? This is where the methodology comes in. Methodology is, am I going to give a survey to people, students like me who are all engaged with that kind of, community field where there is no support? Or am I going to take a huge lot of participants and going to divide them, that who are getting support, who are not getting support. So it again depends on what is the purpose and aim of your study. That is where design comes. How many samples am I going to take? How am I going to divide? Am I going to take only a small lot of sample and interview them and have a case study? So all these things comes under research methodology that determines your research design, the sampling design, what tool you will use. All these things come under research methodology. After all this, after determining all this, now you go to actually take the interviews or administer surveys. What do you mean by administer survey? You give a questionnaire. You must all have been doing it in your projects or in your assignments. You create a survey of questions, and then you pass it on to whomever you want to collect data from, and then you take it back, you look at the responses, and maybe you analyze them quantitatively using numbers, frequency, tallies, descriptive analysis, or you analyze them, you go further for interviewing, saying that why a particular person has responded in such in a completely different way than others. There may be few people who have completely their responses deviate from the other responses, so you want to really know about it. Then you go back to the field and talk to them, take some interviews. So all these things now you are collecting. When you're actually doing this, you get a lot of information. Either you record it, or you write down, or in survey you get responses, you get graphs. All these things are data, right? You have executed and now you have collected a lot of information. That is research data. Now, what will you do with this data? How are you going to? That's ample data. You have one whole book, you have one whole folder in your laptop with all the data that you have collected for this particular study. Now you have to analyze it. If you're using an hypothesis, you may use a quantitative version, that is the numerical data, right? And you will actually, there are statistics which tell you if the hypothesis should be accepted, is it significant, should it be rejected, is there a relationship? If there is a relationship, is it significant? So I won't go into the details of it since I'm just introducing the methodology. All these nitty-gritties of each step will take more time to really understand how you do research. But today we will just introduce you to the terms. And then finally, of course, when you have either tested your hypothesis or you have gone for qualitative data by collecting through interviews or say focus group discussions or just informal talking, whatever it is, all those kind of data which are in statements, right, which are interview excerpts, which you cannot really quantify. You cannot put numbers. At the most, you can put how many people responded in a certain way you can put. But you need to analyze them qualitatively. And there are certain kind of analysis techniques, thematic analysis, right? Content analysis, and so on. Finally, after doing either with quantitative and qualitative, what do you have to do? You cannot keep it with you, right? You need to, now you have looked at researchers. Somebody needs to look at your research too, what you have found out from this particular study. So now you are going to report it. You have to interpret it. You need to use your researcher's instinct, interpret it and report it. That is, you have to document it in a systematic way as to what was your research problem, what literature you reviewed, what were your hypotheses, did you follow a quantitative or a qualitative approach, how did you collect data, what were the constraints, what challenges came in. After collecting data, how did you analyze the data, which statistics did you apply for analyzing the data, all this thing. And finally, when you get a whole kind of findings, you conclude and then interpret and document it, so that someone else who is facing this problem and want to study this problem may have a look at your study and see what are the constraints and how can that person proceed forward, what methodology you used, right? If by using a methodology you had some problems, that person may not go for that methodology. If you use a methodology and find that, okay, this methodology has worked, you may take the same methodology, but do the research in a completely different context. It can be urban, it can be rural, it can be different geography, it can be a teacher. You are all in a, say, science, math, commerce, arts, and various other disciplines. It can be done in a particular law school, medical school, and so on. So different contexts will give different kinds of results. So now we come here What is research methods versus research methodology? Though both the terms seem same and sound same, methods are techniques and tools that are used to conduct the research. That is the kind of maybe interviews, what do you say, surveys, questionnaires, and so on. And methodology is how, a way to systematically solve the problem. How are you doing it? Are you using the quantitative or qualitative approach? If you're using a quantitative approach, are you going for survey? Are you going for experimental study where I talked about two different groups, one you control and one you experiment, right? So there are different, again, types of researches. So what are you using? How are you going to proceed further? Even after using a quantitative or a qualitative, when you get the data, how are you going to analyze the data? Different people may analyze data using different statistics based on what is their objective. Right? So it may be understood as a science of studying how research is done scientifically. Here, what are you using for conducting it? And here, how methodology it is. So how it answers how. So scope of methodology is much wider than research methods. Research methods is a part of research methodology. I hope it's clear to hear. If you have any doubts, please raise before I go further. Or if you have anything to share, also you are welcome. Can I move further? Okay. So as I said, research methodology is planning. It's the planning of educational research, and it is not arbitrary. You have to really go into review of literature and find what methodologies have been used. You have to go to your objective and research questions to see which method will suit my research better. It's not just about taking any kind of approach, any kind of design and just proceeding. It is not arbitrary. It is clear planning. Only if this is the heart of whole research. If somewhere there is some error or some problem in planning, then your whole journey will get messed up. So the planning of educational research is very, very crucial and important for any study. And research is an inescapably ethical. So everywhere you have to follow ethics. Ethics in terms of if you're going to a certain interviewing, or if you're going to survey somebody or experimental, what are the ethics that you need to follow? Simple example, like if you're going to study on children, how are you going to take consent from children? If you're going to take photographs, how are you going to mask those faces, right? Have you taken consent for video recording, audio recording? And even in terms of what do you say, if you have developed a tool, you cannot just use the tool as it is. Either you take an already established tool from the existing research, which has a validity, which has a reliability. If you are going to create or develop a tool for your study, which you feel is very necessary for the context and is not available, you need to administer the tool to item analysis. You need to establish the content validity, face validity, construct validity, and then reliability. So you need to go through the pilot, pre-pilot. So these are all ethics. You just cannot use as it is, right? These are all some ethics that you need to follow when you're doing a research. It may be time consuming, but it's always better to go step by step and logically. Now, when you're talking of research methodology, as I told you, we have quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. Now, as the term itself, what is quantitative? Quant is numbers. We are dealing with numbers, numericals, where I talked about survey, a questionnaire, where you get numbers, where you add up the numbers and get a score. Then you have graphs, bar graphs, histograms, pie charts. So you have percentage, right? All these things come under quantitative. What is qualitative? Qualitative is very relative or subjective. That is, you have statements, right? You have excerpts, you have documents. You are going through a curriculum document, say. right? In the curriculum document, say the same example, if we take of community engagement project, you're looking at the curriculum document, you're seeing what are all included in the document, what is the kind of mentoring, what is the kind of support that the field will offer to the student. So all these things are something you are analyzing the document. So that is qualitative. So you will also be mentioning those kind of aspects when you are trying to write your report in the findings. Mixed methods, again, as the nomenclature suggests, mixed methods, which is the one method is quant, other method is qual. You mix both of them, that becomes mixed method. But mixed method does not mean that you just mix them. It has a larger meaning to the mixed method methodology. When you're talking of methodology, how are you proceeding? Are you starting with quant and following with qualitative? Why? What is the reason? Are you starting with qualitative and then going for quantitative? There must be a specific reason for it that aligns with your objective or research question. Is quantitative more a bigger aspect in your study than qualitative? Or is qualitative a bigger aspect in your study than quantitative? Right? All these aspects are something that are direct. Research methodology should directly align to the objectives of your research and the research questions that you have framed for your study. The research questions, when you have research questions, it helps you to navigate through the whole journey of research. If I tell how, say, let's come to the example later. I will, because otherwise we'll waste time in this, right? First, we'll go through this, and then when we come to the example, it will be much clearer. So, quantitative, numerical data, as I said. Hypothesis. When we talk of hypothesis, it is something that is directly related to quantitative methodology because we test them statistically. Then comes the research design. As I again spoke to you, experimental design, quasi-experimental design. Usually in educational settings, we use quasi-experimental design because it does not have a direct random sampling. When we talk of research, we need to have random sampling. Random means you pick up a sampling in a certain way that each sample is a, representative of the population. Again, I'll come to sample. That time you will understand what is population and what is sample, right? So experimental, quasi. Then in here, I've given example. Just, yeah, experimental group. Okay, I've not given the example here. Just, okay. Okay, so this is an example here, which will be, again and again touching upon when we are dealing with concepts. Does peer tutoring improve academic performance and classroom engagement among second year students? Now, you are all second year students, right? In your class, for assignments or for any kind of tasks, probably you are paired with somebody or you are in a triad, working in a triad throughout your semester or throughout the year. Why are you paired with somebody or in a triad? So that if A, B, C, if A is not able to understand something and B and C are able to understand it, they can help A to understand it, support the learning of A. Similarly, for some other course, maybe B is not able to understand, A and C will support. So there is a mutual kind of support where peer tutoring helps. Or another case, there may be a whole class in which there are a few bunch of students, say 10 students, who are really academically doing well and able to learn at a faster pace. And other students are lagging behind for some reason or the other. So here, what can happen is the group that is really performing well and are able to understand, each one has some students from the other group to mentor them or tutor them, help them in understanding and improving their academic performance. At the same time, it also helps in classroom engagement. But does it really help? We want to find out that. So now when we come here, if suppose we take that as example, if you look at quantitative and if you take a quasi-experimental design, the example will be, there is an experiment. We are actually want to find out whether peer tutoring is helping academic performance as well as student engagement. For that, we divide the group. Say second year students, we take two different classes. We divide the group in such a way that one group receives peer tutoring. The model of peer tutoring is actually there in one group. And in one group, there is no peer tutoring. It's a normal, regular way of teaching. right? So throughout the semester, it happens that one group is receiving and the other group is not receiving. So now here we have a pre-test, that is the test given to both the groups, whatever test we design for them in terms of academic performance as well as classroom engagement. Then we have the intervention, that is where we divide. Now we are actually taking the concept of peer tutoring in the group, the experimental group, and the other group is as it is, it goes on. Then after a semester, again we give the same test, that is the post test after the intervention. What is the intervention? The intervention is the time between when people have not received peer tutoring and people receive peer tutoring, especially the experimental group. So now again we give the test to both, or maybe only to the experimental group. It depends on what design you're choosing, right? So now what happens is, now when you take the test again after pre-test, you will see a difference. In the traditional group, you will see probably the scores are more or less the same, but in the experimental group where the peer tutoring has been, you may see that there is some kind of difference. It's possible, necessary that it may not come, the results may not be the same. Any results can come. It may also defy whatever the earlier researchers have talked about. There may be other reasons for it, right? There may be reasons from where the students come from, the profile of students, the family culture, anything can interfere in this. So actually in this kind of thing, we are not looking at those things and trying to find out whether peer tutoring is really helping academic performance and student engagement. Whatever the results come, that will again, you'll have to corroborate with the existing findings and interpret them in a way, supposing it is contrasting the existing findings which says that peer tutoring really helps, then you may really have to find out what are those factors that are hindering this kind of impact. So this is where quantitative comes in. When you look at qualitative, what it focuses on? Lived experiences, and it explores meanings and perceptions. So when I'm talking to people, when I'm taking interview, it can be a case study, it can be the phenomenon that I'm studying, it can be narrative inquiry. These are designs, right? What in a case study, I may want to interview certain students who are a class who is receiving the peer tutoring, right? That is the case study. So the whole class that is receiving peer tutoring is my sample, from which I'm trying to find out how are they finding it? What are the challenges? Why do they think that it is helping? These kind of questions. I frame kind of 10 to 15 questions. I'm trying to understand meanings and their perceptions about peer tutoring. Is it really helping them? One or two may say that it's really not helping. It's, disturbing their own kind of way of working. It can come. All those kind of different contrasting findings can come. But I'm taking a kind of case study, maybe a particular school which is going for peer tutoring, or only a particular class which is going for peer tutoring. I can take a case study, or I can take all those students in the college or the university, maybe around. I can decide the sample and I will look at the phenomenon in depth, that what is peer tutoring. I may even talk with the teachers or the mentors who have actually designed this model. I will also talk to the teachers who have made these groups or made these dyads and triads, right? So there is a lot of things. Or I may even talk to the principal and the head as to how this concept, how did they conceptualize this idea? Why did they conceptualize this idea? Like, how did it work? Did it work in the first year? What changes they brought in? So this whole phenomenon of peer tutoring will be something I will take meanings from various stakeholders, the head, the teachers, the parents, the students, depending on how much time I have, depending on the feasibility. There are a lot of things that come into research. It's not that you design and then you get access to everything, right? So there may be limitations and delimitations in your study. So then you narrate it, narrative inquiry. You may take some 3 to 4 people who are, very engaged in that peer tutoring concept, and you may actually narrate the whole story of the concept. You will narrate it as a narrative, as what is peer tutoring, where it come from, what is the approach, what are the theories, what are the conceptual foundations of it, how does it work in a particular context, and so on. So this is what qualitative methodology is about. Mixed methods. Now here, quant and qual. So quant, you have achievement scores, surveys, and so on. You have all numbers, Likert scales and number of scores. Qual, you have excerpts, interviews, focus groups, and many other kind, maybe content analysis, document analysis, so on. So when we want to really know whether peer tutoring works, why and how it works, why and how, your quant will not give much of why and how. It will give to what extent, what, and so on. But really, if you want to know why, how, what are the factors, and so on, you have qualitative. So you blend both quantitative and qualitative to go into a mixed methods methodology, right? So this is the study that we are going. So when you have this particular study, what will be the statement of the problem? Examining the impact of peer tutoring on students' academic performance and engagement. This particular statement I have written. You can write it in many different ways, right? Depending on what is the approach and what is the design that you are going to, adopt. So it can be con, it can be qual, it can be mixed method. So you can write this statement in many different ways and it doesn't matter. So if I have to write the objectives of this study, so determine the effect of peer tutoring on students' performance, examine the influence of this on engagement, compare academic performance of students who participate in peer tutoring and who do not. So this is where the experimental and the control group comes, or it can be single group. So you can take two groups, or if it is not possible to really do that, you can get single group. One is before intervention, before introducing peer tutoring, you take a test. Then you introduce peer tutoring for a semester, you see how it works. Now again you take a test, so it's a single group. So there are different designs of experimental design itself. Then to explore students' perception of peer tutoring. See, this can be con as well as call. So quantitative, you have a whole statements, you send a Google form or you ask them to tick some statements, say yes, no, or say to what extent you agree to. So you have a scale of 1 to 5, that is called a Likert scale. So perceptions you have, or you may want to interview, you may really want to understand, say 5 to 6 students you choose and you probe them a lot. You have state as questions, you probe them and find out their perception. So it can be both quantitative or qualitative, and identify factors. Now, in this perceptions, you're also trying to probe as to why it happened. What is your family this thing? Do your parents support in it, and so on? Or is time time a factor, a constraint? All these things are factors that facilitate or hinder that you may have through interviews. So here, this is how study objective. These study objectives can be written also as research questions as to what are students' perceptions of peer tutoring, what are the factors that facilitate or hinder, what are the challenges, what do family factors support, or what to say, mediate peer tutoring by facilitators to student engagement. So there can be many ways. And what is the objective of your study? Accordingly, you can write your research questions. So in the above example of peer tutoring, what can be the methods? Questionnaire, achievement test, observation. This is for quantitative. Observation can be a qualitative. So only qualitative. If you're using observation, you can have a class observation too, right? Not just interviews. Interviewing teachers, interviewing students. FGDs means focus group discussion. Suppose if you take single student, he or she may not give you honest responses, being scared. Maybe he or she may feel that, my statement will be recorded and, I will be. So you can take a bunch of students. When you take a bunch of students as a group and you actually start focus group discussions, more than interviews, it is like discussion. So you just start questioning and then slowly you facilitate the discussion amongst themselves. So they start actually responding in an honest way and you get a lot of data. Then other thing is sitting in the classroom where you see peer tutoring actually happening, observing the classroom, right? So all these things you have observation notes as to what is happening, where the teacher is facilitating or where students are being dominated. Are some students facing challenges? Maybe if you find some kind of thing, you can go to the student and talk. So these are observation notes. This will help you in qualitative. Then methodology, as I said, for a this kind of example, we usually choose a quasi-experimental quantitative approach where there is no random sampling. We have a kind of maybe a single group or pre-PES POTUS group. It all depends. It can be a non-equivalent. Non-equivalent in the sense, if you take 10 people in experimental, 10 people in control, not necessary that all the 10 will have the same kind of academic achievement in the last year. Not necessary all the people have the same kind of family background, right? Not necessary socio-economic status will be the same. So there are so many things that may be non-equivalent in both the groups. That's why we usually use quasi-experimental. In a quantitative study, when you're talking of hypothesis, we said, right, our propositions, we convert them into hypothesis. So if I talk about my proposition into a hypothesis, I will say there is no significant difference in academic performance between students who participate in peer tutoring and those who do not. This is null hypothesis. That is why zero is called H0, right, as a subscript. Then another is for student engagement, I may say peer tutoring does not significantly affect student engagement. Now, when you may say why I started with this, so that towards the end of it, when I really find that peer tutoring is having a great difference, so I reject this hypothesis. And now this is a lot more. When you're talking of hypothesis, there is again a lot more to delve into it in terms of errors and statistical significance, confidence level. At what confidence level? Is it at 95% confidence, 99% confidence? There are so many things which I don't want to overwhelm with now, but this is the way we write the hypothesis. Or else, other than null hypothesis, we can write alternative hypothesis asserting the fact that students who participate in peer tutoring demonstrate significantly higher. So here I'm talking about the positive aspect that they do have a difference. Right? And students who participate in peer tutoring demonstrate significantly higher engagement than those who do not. So this is the way hypotheses are written. And again, this is something which more to delve in. So you can do it later. Research questions. Now, I want to do a qualitative study, so I'm also continuing the objectives with research questions, saying that how do students experience peer tutoring in the learning process? So this is something which you don't get in quantitative. It's very difficult to frame those kind of questions. But when you talk to students, you will find, I feel really happy, I feel motivated, somebody will say, because I'm able to talk to my peer. I'm not able to ask questions to my teacher, but I'm able to ask questions to my peer and I'm able to clarify them. So these kind of experiences are something that you collect in a qualitative data. How do students perceive the impact of peer tutoring? Now, when you say peer tutoring academic performance, they feel that they have really done well. Marks may not be highly significant, but they feel that the time of study, the stress level that they used to take before before peer tutoring is somehow less now. So all these things matter when you're talking about the impact of peer tutoring. They'll say that next time I'll really perform much better. I know that I can perform much better. So their self-esteem, their self-efficacy, all these things come up. That is what the impact, and that may not probably be able to capture in your quantitative data. Even if you capture it, you may not capture the actual process or the essence of what is happening in the process. In what ways does peer tutoring influence student engagement? Again, this is something that will come from interviews or observation notes. And what challenges and benefits? Again, you may not be able to frame questions as much as how you get in your conversations or interactions with teachers and students. Now we come to the types of research. The approach, as I said, call on purpose, basic and applied, and we usually go for applied research. Basic research is a bigger umbrella of research under which applied research comes, where in applied research, we try to find out solutions to practical problems in our daily life, right? Like classroom problems, school, institutional, and so on. And methodology, descriptive, experimental, and correlational. That is again with quantitative. Qualitative, there are even more aspects. So now here we'll come to quantitative. We saw experimental, quasi-experimental, correlation. Qualitative, again we are seeing case study, phenomenological study, and ethnography. Ethnography is something when suppose you want to study about peer tutoring and you know of a particular school which is introducing a peer tutoring a lot. So you take permission from the school to be a part of that school for say maybe 6 months, 3 months to understand the phenomenon, right? You're staying there. You're also being part of maybe you want to the teachers, when they are actually making diets, triads, or when they are setting the processes of peer tutoring for the students, when they're writing, you may also be part of it. Either you can be a participant observer or you can be a non-participant observer. So they may allow you to take part in their decisions. If sometimes they may not allow you to take part, but still you can be there in the field and observe everything and be part of it. So it can be inside the classroom, outside the classroom, in the corridors, in the staff room, in the, what do you say, dining hall, anywhere, everywhere. So you are there. You also come every day to school from morning to evening like any other teacher. Stay there and understand the, what do you say, phenomenon of peer tutoring. And mixed method, of course, explanatory, sequential, and there are many more. For this I've taken only for this particular study, how we can go through. So we have a quantitative where we first takes say student engagement and academic performance, we take a quantitative scores. Then we want to explain those numbers as to why, what, how. There we go for either interviews, focus group discussions, observance. So it is sequential, quantitative followed by qualitative, right? To understand the whole process. That is mixed method. Or convergent parallel, right? Convergent parallel in the sense, parallelly you are conducting both and then you converge them. You converge the data and information and everything to find out what are the findings, what are the conclusions, and try to interpret them. So it's also useful for triangulation. Like you triangulate that whether whatever you are getting in quantitative is qualitative talking about the same thing, or whatever you're getting in qualitative is quantitative also trying to supplement that kind of data. Or sometimes if it is not, then there may be some gap, which again you need to go back to the field to understand why there is a gap or why there is some contrasting findings. Then comes sample. Now, in this particular example, I'm say taking population. I want to, my population is grade 8 mathematics students in a school. Now, that that school has many divisions. Okay. And if I have to take grade 8 mathematics, too many students are there. I cannot take all the students from my either quantitative or qualitative. So what I do, I take sample. I take 60 students, of which 30 are experimental and 30 are control. Either I take from two divisions or I combine all the divisions and randomly take 30 students. Depends on how you can do it, what time you have, and what feasibility it is. Then what are the sampling techniques? It can be random, as I said. It can be random in terms of you put the roll numbers and you take every fifth student, or you take alternative, odd, even. So there is a lot of ways of random sampling, lottery method, and so on. Certified random sampling, now you want A, B, C, D, E, F. There are divisions. So you take from each division, and then from each division, you randomly take the samples. You want it to be representative of each division. Or cluster sampling, you take one whole class, right? That teacher is ready to give you. So you take one whole class, that is a cluster sampling. So these are all the kind of quantitative sampling techniques. In qualitative, purposive sampling and criterion sampling. So here you have students who have participated in peer tutoring for at least one semester. So you are only taking those chunks. It may be from any class, any what do you say, division, but you are only going for those students. Of course, again, they have to volunteer. If a student is not ready to participate in your study, you cannot force anybody to uh, participate in your study. So you have to select students who have participated, and then you want to understand the phenomenon. That is the criteria for it, and that is why it is called purposive, because the purpose is to study students who have participated in peer tutoring and the aspect of peer tutoring, whether it has impact on performance or engagement. What are the tools you will use, and what are the techniques, right? For quantitative, you have for academic performance, you can have achievement test, even the class test, the unit test or something, or some standardized test, and your pre-test and post-test scores, right? You prepare a test where you want to understand certain aspects of peer tutoring and in particular subjects, some kind of information. Then you validate it, you establish the reliability, and the same test, post test, after the intervention, that is after having the peer tutoring, right? And quality and yeah, for student engagement, it can be, you can have a questionnaire for behavioral engagement, emotional engagement, cognitive engagement. As I said, students may feel, so their self-esteem will be high. their self-concept will be high, their self-efficacy will be high, but they are not able to move in what do you say, the marks, the grades, cognitive engagement. So they may need a little more push, or they are not able to what do you say, talk with their peers in such a way that they feel safe. Somebody is dominating them. So emotional, are they emotionally safe? Are they emotionally able to engage? Or they say that we feel scared to ask teachers, so it's so good to be attached to peers and ask them and clarify. So emotional engagement, they are feeling emotionally safe. So all these kind of aspects that you can capture in questionnaire in a survey. So you can see there are some examples. So when I say I actively participate in class discussions, Likert scale 1 to 5. So how much, to what extent am I able to actively participate in class discussions, right? Because of the peer tutoring, because I'm able to clarify my doubts, right? I pay attention during lessons because my engagement is increased now. So even after peer tutoring, if I say I'm at 1, that means something is wrong. I'm not able to pay attention in the class. So these all matters. And then you can take forward to qualitative if you are going for a mixed method. In qualitative, you have semi-structured interviews. So, so it can be the teacher or the student. Tutor means the teacher who is actually, or even the peer tutor. As I said, there may be a what do you say, group of students who are tutoring other students. So you can take them and the other group who are being tutored. Right? How did peer tutoring influence your learning? So these are kind of questions. FGD, again, you can take a bunch of students and ask them questions, facilitate the discussions amongst them. Then observation, right? You sit in the class and see how many are participating, how they are participating, what is the nature of participation, what is the nature of collaboration. Teacher is given a task, right? What is the nature of collaboration? Is somebody really dominating? Is everyone participating in that, right? What is the process that is going on in the group? Then are they able to provide the what do you say, do the task on time on task, or it takes a longer time, longer duration? Is it really working? And then are they asking questions? Are they able to ask, right? Are they able to freely talk? Is there a freedom of speech? All these things you will find in observation. Now we come to data analysis. We are already done with administering. Now data analysis, quantitative. Here you have descriptive statistics. Here you have the mean, median, standard deviation, percentage. So as I said, these are all numbers. So this will help you to see whether even whatever sample you're taken, is it in the normal probability curve. Now, I don't know if you know what is normal probability curve. It's a bell curve that tells that the sample that you have chosen is more or less representative of your population. So if you're taking that 8th grade of a particular school and you're taken a sample, whatever findings you get for the sample, you will be able to say that this particular finding can apply to all the 8th grade students of all the divisions to certain extent. So again, here confidence level and comes when you do the statistical analysis, but more or less you say that this particular sample is within the normal probability curve. It's a inverted bell curve. Inferential analysis, you go further. Now you have already established your sample and population meaning of described your population. Now you go to inferential analysis for both performance and engagement. Now what you will do? Independent sample t-test. So now you are comparing paired sample t-test. Now again, these all depend on what design you are choosing. Are you choosing post-test, pre-test two sample, or are you paired samples, or are you choosing independent samples, or are you choosing one group only where you take the pretest, then after doing the intervention, you're taking the post-test? Again, it all depends on what is the kind of design that you're choosing. And of course, ANCOVA, again, it is controlling for pretest scores. So you're taking out the pretest scores and trying to find now, I don't know if I have to explain this more because this is all much into depth. I don't want to explain this as a part of introducing to research methodology. Otherwise, you'll get too much confused. This is all about comparisons, comparing variables like academic performance, academic engagement, student engagement. Though you are testing the impact of peer tutoring on academic performance and academic engagement, you may see that there may be an impact of on academic on student engagement, but maybe not seeing it on academic performance. So what is hindering? Is it student engagement that is mediating, or are there some other factors? So there are a lot of things that intersect. So when you're comparing certain variables, you need to control some, or you may need to have a matrix where you see the intersection of different variables. So you have R, multiple R, and so on, right? Correlation, multiple correlation, and so on for that. For engagement, again, t-test, the one that is undergoing peer tutoring and one that is not undergoing. Here you have ANOVA, then you have correlation, that is a Pearson analysis. So there are various statistics that you will determine depending on what is the kind of design that you choose for your study. Qualitative, again, I said thematic analysis. There are many more beyond this. This I've taken for this particular study where we are going with semi-structured interviews, right? So first you familiarize yourself, you collect all the data from interviews, from observations, from FGDs. Now you have a lot of data here. Now you need to familiarize yourself with the data. As I said, some data from interviews may not match with your observation data, right? Some data with your FGDs may not match with the other data. There may be certain reasons for which you may have to go back to the field. Right? Then from the whole data, you need to understand your data. You need to really connect with your data. That is something which you is now the core of your findings. Now you start looking at words which keep on coming. The keywords, you select those words. How many times certain words comes, frequency of certain words. There may be some words which come only once or twice, which are not matching with the other words. So those also you may have to retrieve from it, right? Keywords. Then coding. Then you start coding them. Coding them in terms of you put these words into categories. Are they coming under performance? Are they coming under engagement? Are they coming under motivation? So you may have various kinds of words which come under particular pattern. They show a particular pattern. You categorize them and start coding them broadly, and then you generate the theme, right? Then you have a broader theme saying academic performance or student engagement, motivation or mentoring, whatever comes from your whole data. Then you review the themes and start defining them, and then slowly you look at the narrative that your whole data is talking about, how you interpret it, what has research talked about, is it correct, is it concurrent with what research is talking, or is it giving something new or different from what existing research? And then you start reporting it, reporting in the sense documenting it, whether peer tutoring has impacted academic performance and student engagement in this particular context of 8th grade students in blah blah school. Right? So possible themes again have been listed: communication skills, motivation, collaborative learning. So there can be negative and there can be positive. Remember that. This doesn't mean that all themes will be, it is confidence. So it can be increased, some can be decreased. Some can be decreased because after starting being tutored by some peer, that person feels low, inferior, right? So maybe confidence has decreased, possible. Or the person who is tutoring is using a more complicated method of teaching, so that person probably understanding is becoming lesser than what teacher is teaching. So anything can happen, right? So don't go by these themes in positive terms. There can be various positive and negative revelations in the study, and when you integrate them, you start actually quant and call, you try to see whether they are supporting each other, whether they are supplementing each other. Or sometimes you have a quantitative, you see certain scores, and then you try to find out why and how. That is, qualitative will be supplementing the quantitative findings. In this particular study, we have taken sequential explanatory design, where first you go with the dominant quantitative, and after looking at the scores, selecting some of them which are deviating and which are high or low, we are trying to find out how, why, what factors which are supplementing the quantitative using qualitative approach, right? Okay. Yeah, so here we end. So now this is a task for you that you can probably take ahead. Now you have to, identify one small idea. It can be very small idea from education, from your own classroom, from your own practices. Write the statement of problem, write the types of researchers and the research methodology, design, what tool you will use. It can be one single tool, it need not be many. One sampling method, and how you will analyze the data, right? So this is a task for you. Maybe you can share with your teachers how you will go. And yeah, this is a reflections as to you can share with me now, or you can share with your facilitators later. One thing that you learned and found useful today, and one question that you will have about research methodology going forward. It need not be one, it can be many. Yes.
Dear teachers, please let us know if the students have any questions. Ma'am, I have actually received some questions from the students myself. So,
Yeah.
if I have your permission, can I ask them?
Yeah, please. Please.
Yes. What advice would you give to students who are doing research for the first time?
First time. So that's the reason I wrote a very mini, small it need not be a big, broad statement, very small problem, which always sometimes students feel that problem kya hai? What is the problem here, right? Very trivial. You feel that it's very trivial. But really, if you go into the depth of it, you feel that you can actually find solutions. The only problem is we resort to solutions in WhatsApp, friends, ecosystem without understanding whether this problem can be solved systematically. So any small thing that they find as a concern, or they even find it really good, a good practice, they really appreciates one of the practice. They can research that also, right? Does this particular practice apply to? Simple question. Now start. What is whoever has asked this question? Can I know that what kind of either concern or any kind of practice that person really feels close to the heart? Research is something is close to the heart. It's your daily when you start it, it's your daily bread. You live it, sleep it, drink it, and take it. It's a baby. And once you start doing it, you will get addicted to it. And then you can, actually go to bigger problems. So if someone can tell me any one thing that is close to your heart, it can be a concern, a problem, it can be some good practice, something that you really like.
That was a beautiful answer, ma'am. Another question that I've got is, can a study still be valid if the sample size is small, ma'am?
Small. Yes, it is valid. For now, if the study size is small, you will certainly go for qualitative, right? You can use quantitative methods in that, but qualitative is the strength of that particular study. But qualitative does not say I take 5 as a sample, right? And I want to understand a phenomena. So I do qualitative, I use 5 different cases, 5 multiple case study approach. It's a multiple case study. With all these 5, I'm actually trying to understand the phenomena in various ways. I keep interviewing them, more than interview, it is talking to them. Keep talking to them till I find my data is saturated. You understand? What do you mean by data saturation? Like I keep asking questions, I bring back the data, I bring back the information, I look at it, I read it, I reread it. And then finally, one day when I'm going back and coming back, I'm seeing that the same repetitions are coming. So data is saturated. Now I'm getting nothing more new or nothing to reveal. That's it. My data is saturated. So now this study is ready for analysis and interpreting. So you can do with small samples, but you need to choose the right design, the right methodology. So that's very important. That is why research methodology is the heart of your research. Once you plan well in the beginning, everything goes smooth.
Ma'am, one last question that I've got. Which stages of research can AI assist with, and where should we draw a line on using AI?
Very good question. In the era of AI, yes, AI, you should certainly take AI's help, because you should not waste time in technical tasks that can be done by AI. Review of literature, you should not do with AI, right? You can use your review of literature to help AI to summarize it, put it into a kind of logical way, but your engagement with the review of literature should be your own findings. Findings you should not ask AI to do. Yes, you can have data, you can have a table formed out of data. You visualize and conceptualize the how it should look like, and then you give it to AI, say, give me the frequency. Statistically, it will help you statistically. And there are various statistical tools. Why AI? There are various statistical tools, both quantitative and qualitative, that will help you to analyze the data. But finally, AI or the tools are not humans. They cannot connect. You cannot connect to a person, right? They cannot connect to the person. You have gone to the field. And even as researchers, I personally feel when I go and interview or I go and observe, and when someone else who is not connected to this study appears, will certainly give a different kind of quality of findings because you don't connect to it. Right? So, what kind of what do you say task you give to AI, you should be very careful. That technical, that you don't need to put it into bullet points, or you don't need to logically arrange, or spelling mistakes, grammatically organize your narrative. But the narrative should be yours, right? The methodology, all these things, what you design should be yours. You cannot take AI's. AI can give any kind of references. You will come to know that it makes a lot of blunders. You may be very happy to see the way it presents, but it makes a lot of blunders. If at all you even get something from AI, please, please, please go back and verify yourself what AI has done. It will give you references that never exist.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for patiently answering all the questions and queries of the students. Now I request my student, Ms. Vaishnavi Gupta, to please propose the vote of thanks for today.
So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of St. Andrews College, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Gomti Jatin, for conducting such an insightful session on introducing to research methodology as a part of the 7-day information literacy program. Gomti ma'am, thank you for introducing us to the fundamental of research methodology and highlighting the importance of a systematic and ethical approach to research. Your valuable insight have given us a strong foundation and will certainly guide us in the future, our future academic and research endeavors. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to our management for their constant support and our principal ma'am for encouraging initiatives that promote research and academic excellence. A special thanks to the organizing team for their dedicated efforts in making today's session a success, and to all the faculty members and students for their enthusiastic participation. Once again, thank you, Gomti ma'am, for your valuable time and guidance. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I hope I've been able to at least, to some extent give some kind of knowledge to students and have, intrigue this thing for research. I hope that they will take up at least small problem and do something. I hope so. Yeah. And thanks, St. Andrews management and faculty for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for being the resource person and being agreeing to this opportunity as well. We learned, especially us young faculty members, also learned so much from your experience and expertise today. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Bye.